Welcome on into a Thursday edition of the Yanks Go Yard Podcast. I'm Adam Weiner alongside Thomas Carinante. The New York Yankees swept aside the New York Mets thanks to Max Mallow for taking on co-hosting duties on Monday. Sorry, we kicked his ass out of the Bronx. Loser, huge loser. The New York Yankees are now on a 3-game win streak, upping their August win total to 7, which is still an unbelievable number. But you know what? 3 of them are in a row. And when things are in a row, that means they're good automatically. There's nothing wrong with the Yankees right now whatsoever. An exciting new relief prospect, Greg Weissert, is coming up. I wonder what the corresponding move is for that. Oh, it's Nestor Cortes to the IL. Is it a phantom IL stint? I don't know. You probably think it is. But I don't know why you'd give the Yankees the benefit of the doubt there. And even if it is just another reason to keep Jordan Montgomery in the fold down the stretch, even if you didn't intend to use him in October, because pitchers matter. They're pretty important. Being a pitcher is sort of a huge thing. You need a starting pitcher every game. We've already got our friend drunk in the comments thanking us for Jordan Montgomery. Buddy, it's not going to last. He will not be doing this in 2 weeks. Be grateful for what you've gotten so far. I promise you. But the Yankees certainly could use this version of Jordan Montgomery. They could use a worse version of Jordan Montgomery. They could use the worst version of Jordan Montgomery with Clark Schmidt coming in for the bullpen in the 4th inning to help him out. Instead, they're going to move Clark Schmidt to the rotation. Luis Severino gets back on September 11th. And the Jordan Montgomery trade, I'm sadly going to have to downgrade it from an F to an F-. Nestor no longer available, whether he's healthy or not. This is such an embarrassing look for Brian Cashman in the front office. Apparently, though, team could have had Pablo Lopez to be that extra pitcher, and we learned a little bit more this morning about why that didn't happen. So apologies to Brian Cashman if we were like, hey, this deal fell apart and Brian Cashman got blindsided. If this was the ask, it wasn't even close. Thanks to Ken Rosenthal, we now know more about that potential deal. We'll take you behind the curtain there and talk more about how the Yankees trade deadline unraveled. Again, we're still talking about the trade deadline. It's August 25th, and the reason we're doing that is because the team, despite this 3-game winning streak where they won every single game 4-2, is still in shambles. And whether it's Nestor innings management or Nestor really being injured or whatever this is, they could clearly use an extra pitcher or two, and they only added 1 pitcher and subtracted 1, so they didn't even get an extra pitcher at all. Make sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a 5-star review along with a mailbag question. We will be more than happy to answer it. I'll answer it. It's fine. I'll answer some questions now. I mean, again, 3 wins. The Yankees lead could have been perilously down into the dirt by now. Could have been 4.5 or 4 games. It's 7.5 and 8. The Rays never lose. The Rays are playing an interesting part of their schedule. Royals, Angels, Royals, Red Sox, Royals, back to the Royals. 5 in KC, 5 at home. It never ends. They play bad teams constantly. And the Jays are in Boston. The Rays are going to Boston. The Boston Red Sox doing us no favors. Uninvited from the Thanksgiving dinner. I hate this team. But the Yankees are static. They're finding their footing again. Thomas Carinante, welcome to the podcast. I don't think winning 3-4-2 games in a row is cause to say parade back on, but it's nice. And there were moments in all 3 of those games where things could have turned around, and the Yankees could have fallen flat, and they could have had the bullpen. The bullpen literally could have blown all 3 of those games. The last one against the Jays and the 2 Subway Series games, they didn't blow any of them. So they went a perfect 3-0 in games where they could have easily gone 0-3 and had gone 0-3 in previous archetypes of those games from the rest of the month of August. All that to say, fine, not bad.
Yeah, look, got Mets fans off our backs, which is great. I know all Mets fans are not of that, subscribe to that shit, but we got the worst of the worst off our back. Now it's a split. Can't really say much. And you drop the first 3 of the Jays, which sucks. But guess what? You win the last one against Manoah, who's largely been really good against you. So I'm not saying it's a narrative shift, but remember last year when the Yankees would always lose the worst games of the series? You could say that against the Rays and then against the Jays, they won the best games of the series for the way that they were playing. So silver lining here, dog days of August. Let's not get too down on ourselves. And you simply have to give props where props are due. Frankie Montas, rock solid start. Some dumb defensive shortcomings on the Yankees end. but end up making both of those runs earned. I think maybe they shouldn't have been. Domingo Germán, another face-off with Max Scherzer, another solid outing, very good outing. And then you have Cortez, obviously, who went on the IL Sunday against Alek Manoah. And props to Garrett Cole. I give Garrett Cole so much shit. We talked about it when Max was here. You were not, but I need to kind of say this in front of you. So I feel like somebody's hearing it, somebody who knows that I talk shit on Garrett Cole constantly. Badass move to come out of the dugout. Fucking love it. Would I have rather him start a fight? Sure. Would that have been the smart decision? No. Alek Manoah also coward. So I like that. Starting the tensions with the Jays. I love that energy. So maybe that slowly shifted the tides here. But like you said, nothing to be really excited about. 12 runs over your last 3 games. And then if you really want to backdate it, it's 16 runs over the last 6 games. Not good. Thankfully, 7-game West Coast road trip now, A's and Angels. If there was ever a time for Nestor Cortez to go on the IL, it is now. We'll get to that in a moment, though. Subway Series got the sweep, pretty much exactly what the Yankees needed. I saw that funny tweet about that Mets fan who was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe like the who hit the blooper into right that went like in between all the defenders." Was it Benintendi on that one?
Trevino, the Pete Alonso.
Yeah, Trevino. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This Mets fan was like, "Oh my God, Jeff McNeil rips one into the gap and it's caught. Brandon Nimmo hits one to the warning track and it's out. And the Yankees are hitting bloopers." It's like, yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of what happens in baseball. You get lucky or unlucky. So just as the last Subway Series was, this could have flipped directly in the Mets direction, as things could have ended much differently at Citi Field had a few bounces gone right for the Yankees, or had Aaron Judge actually made contact with a pitch at Citi Field. I was most impressed by the pitching, though. The Mets had been coming out of that series against the Phillies riding high. That Sunday comeback was absolutely incredible. Mark Canha with the 5 RBIs, the go-ahead homer in the 9th. So this team was hot, and the Yankees were down. That one win against the Jays was not changing any narrative for the Yankees. So you got to give it up to Germán for tossing that good outing. The bullpen holding strong. A lot of timely hits. Andrew Benintendi coming back from the dead. And it's because I wrote an article about it. It's because I said, It's because I wrote about Cashman trading for Benintendi, about one of the moves that's going to kill the 2022 Yankees. If you need me to do anything for you guys, any of you guys out there, you need me to reverse any fortunes, I'll write about it and give the exact perspective I have, and the reverse will come true. So if Benintendi has anybody to thank at this moment, I think I maybe deserve an edible arrangement of sorts. Small one.
Do you want that? Do you want that? It's like pineapple and chocolate.
I like
want
fruit
that
and chocolate. Yeah, I would do it.
All right.
It depends. Hey, whatever he wants, I'll take. But yeah, reverse of fortune there. Really can't give the guy enough credit. All those hits are timely. All those hits dig the Yankees out from tough situations. Take pressure off the bullpen. Take pressure off the rest of the lineup. So it's good to kind of see that turnaround happening after, it's just weird how this works sometimes. And it's hard to not get mad at the players, and it's hard to not get mad at the front office, because you make these deadline deals, and in so many years past, you're thinking, oh, this guy should be pumped to be a Yankee, or, oh, the front office probably did the right analysis here to bring in the correct player that fits the system, right? And then you have a guy like Gallo last year who should be fine, but should be fine with the short portion, right? Pop-up should be going out, can't even make contact, forgets that hit fastball middle. You have, Sonny Gray come here years back, Lance Lynn come here years back, Benintendi come here this year, Frankie Montas come here this year, and the starts are just so abysmal. And it's like, what are we doing, man? Is the front office going for the wrong people? Are these people just not as good as we think they are? Like, it's incredibly frustrating, because right at the trade deadline, it also is narrative fit. Right at the trade deadline, we needed these sparks. We didn't get the sparks. The shitty play rolled on for another 2-3 weeks, and now here we are slowly digging out of it. So I hope that little adjustment period for Benintendi and Montas, maybe sign of things to come. David Cohn talked today or yesterday about how he might see an adjustment in Montas's approach, pitch selection, how he's attacking hitters. Could be different. You never know. You never know how it works with these people. But Subway Series sweep, really good way to kind of start off this. This is a 10-game road trip. The Yankees are on the West Coast, then come back to play Tampa for 3 next weekend. Oakland sucks. The Angels suck. So the way the Yankees are playing, I'm happy with 5 of 7. I think this should be 6 of 7, though. But you absolutely have to come out of here winning 5. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think the Subway winning those 2 games in the Subway Series was a really good start for them to give themselves some confidence, some sort of springboard to go ahead to the end of August and turn things around when September arrives.
Yeah, the Yankees bought themselves an extra one by taking both of the Subway Series games instead of just one. I feel like I would have been satisfied with split and 5 of 7. Then I got greedy. Then they justified me getting greedy by taking them both by the same score. And again, all 3 of those wins could have flipped, but and this is people who get mad at Yankee fans for being down in the dumps. This was fuel for them because we were all going on Saturday like, all right, so Cole implodes. Now we got Manoah and Scherzer, Herman, and DeGrom in a row. So we're just going to extend this losing streak all the way into the West Coast swing. And then, of course, the people who say that, oh, you always get what you want. Like, we beat Manoah, we beat Max Scherzer, and we beat, not DeGrom, but held serve. They do Taijuan Walker. And then the self-hating Yankee fan is like, I wish we would have got a shot. Now we're going to lose to Taijuan Walker. It'll feel worse than losing to DeGrom. And we hold serve there. And it's a 2-2 game when he exits. And then we go to town on the Mets bullpen. Anytime some old Yankee friends pop into the conversation, it's always a welcome reunion. Love to see Joely Rodriguez in there in the 7th. Thanks for coming. Nothing but meatballs down the middle. Benintendi, lefty on lefty, just giving him a 94-mile-an-hour fastball center cut. No problem. Serve that through the hole. Benintendi is a professional hitter. This podcast is going to ignore for a second that Joey Gallo has the highest OPS of any player traded at the trade deadline. That never happened. So don't even think about it. That's not real. But Benintendi puts bat on ball. There's a guy in scoring position. He's going to knock him in, especially the last 3 days. He has the game-winning hit in all 3 of these 4-2 wins. By the way, the 2-run shot against Adam Simber, who's an underrated Yankees enemy on Sunday. We never hit that dude. No. Benintendi hits the game-winning 2-run homer off him. Benintendi hits the double that puts the Yankees up 3-0 in the game that they ultimately win 4-2. So that's, not a tie-breaking hit or whatever, but it's still a game winner. The game-winning run was the 3rd run, and he knocked it in. And then on Tuesday, right after the momentum slows and the Glaber play and his brain turns to ice, Benintendi's wanted to deliver the tie-breaking run, and then guess who shows up? Joely Rodriguez. It was nice to see you at a pleasant college reunion. Love when the 2021 Yankees show up to face me on other teams. Oh, here comes Adam Ottavino. Missed you, bud. A 2020 Yankees reunion. He's a fun story. He's a fun case. He went to the Red Sox last year, and we all said, all right, enjoy him when October comes. The Red Sox fans said, I don't think so. He's actually pretty kick-ass. And if you look at his FIP with you guys, he was actually pretty top-notch. And we're like, all right, well, we'll see you when October comes. And they were like, oh, May, he's buzzsawing you. He owns lefties, and your lineup, you're adding more lefties. You guys are so dumb. And we go, all right, see you when October comes. And then his September was abysmal. And he fell apart as the wheels fell off the Red Sox. And he was basically unusable by the time the playoffs rolled around.
He blew that
the Mets got him. Blew the ALCS for them, which is in October. The ALCS is in October, and he was terrible in that. So he shows up, saunters into this Mets-Yankees series, and they're showing his numbers, and he's actually red hot. He's actually managed to maintain it through August. And I'm like, I'm still happy to see him. Like, I'm never not happy to see him. And Aaron Judge gets a hanger, a loopy little 82-mile-an-hour nothing, and he rips it into the gap. 4-2 game. Obviously got a little too close for comfort in the 9th. We'll talk about the whole Clark Schmidt thing in a little bit because I do think it's interesting. I'm not sure what he is, and he's about to be a starter, and I want him to be a starter long-term, I think. He keeps getting used for these 3-inning saves. I don't think he's the kind of guy who, when he empties the tank, I don't think it helps that much. I think when you have a bullpen that's losing weapons day after day, and like Aroldis Chapman is still there, but he looks like garbage, and he's not a weapon. I mean, he's mentally lost. Again, when you're losing bullpen weapons every day, it's tempting to say, hey, I want Clark Schmidt in there because I know he's a major league pitcher and I know he can get outs. But he was trying to get the last out of that Mets game, and he lost his way. With 2 strikes and 2 outs on Tyler Naquin, he starts trying to throw the ball 100 miles an hour. he's not a closer, and that's not like an indictment on him. I think he's a number 3 starter. Like, I think he's a guy who could eventually have a good major league career in a rotation, maybe a 3, maybe a 4, but he's certainly not somebody who can like dot 99 or like has this disgusting put away slider that on 1-2, you're like, here it comes. He's going to bounce it and he's still going to whiff. He's not Edwin Diaz. And so he's trying to close out that game. And he starts trying to throw 100 miles an hour. Cone's like he's flying open. He lost his release point, etc. Like I love him in the bullpen because they've already lost Chapman and Holmes and Chad Green. So having a guy who can eat 3 innings is great. And he got in and out of a lot of trouble in that game. And congrats to him. But I think he's a starter. It's not like I'm not losing him from the bullpen and I'm like, well, there goes my closer. Like, I'm just losing him from the bullpen and I'm like, that's a quality arm I could have used at the bullpen. It makes the Jordan Montgomery trade all the worse. But the Yankees do sweep this Subway Series, skin of their teeth. All of these games are tight. The 2 Mets games are great. Mets fans are wonderful too, because they don't seem to understand how hypocritical they are. And at least I think we have that self-awareness. Like, if what the Yankees just did had happened to the Red Sox, I would be screaming like, of course this happened to you. Like beating those aces after losing a million straight games to nondescript pitchers. I would be like, yes, of course you got that. You always get what you want. And I know I'd be saying that. But Mets fans, last month, the Yankees had Domingo Germán fresh off getting whipped by the Astros and a struggling Jordan Montgomery start those 2 games at Citi Field. They didn't do anything to move them around. They just said, we're going into this series with 2 mismatches. We're statistically unlikely to win either of those games. And they don't. And that's because the Yankees view this season as a bigger picture than just, we got to win the Mets series. They view the season as a 162-game marathon. That's why Luis Severino is on the IL for 60 games. That's why people think Nestor's on the IL. We'll talk conspiracy theories. Who knows? Either way, the Yankees aren't going to sacrifice everything just to beat the Mets at Citi Field. They're like, oops, the rotation lined up with Domingo Germán. He's who's pitching. Of course, he loses to Scherzer, but doesn't get whipped, and he's actually good enough that he gets to stick in the rotation. He's actually found his sea legs since then. Pretty weird. And then Montgomery is terrible, and they lose both those games. And Yankee fans are like, I don't think the Yankees care that much. They didn't prioritize these games, which is true. And Mets fans are like, so what? The Yankees didn't care because they had Domingo pitching? Well, guess what? He's in your rotation. So get a better rotation. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I hear you. But now, all of a sudden, the Yankees have won these games. Buck Showalter has DeGrom going for the second one and then goes, actually, we want to give him more rest, so we're moving him to Colorado. Isn't that the same thing? Mets clearly aren't going all out to win the Subway Series either. They could have started DeGrom in the second game, and they said, no, we'd rather focus on the big picture. That's the same thing you yelled at Yankee fans for pointing out a month ago. And then you get the Mets fans going, we're stinging balls into the gap, and they're getting caught. And the Yankees are winning on these stupid bloops to Pete Alonso. And it's like, same deal. Same as you said, hey, Domingo Germán's your rotation. Hey, Pete Alonso's your defense. Catch a pop-up. And what do you want? You're going to blame the Yankees for the Mets making defensive blunders? Catch a pop-up. You look like the Phillies. And what are we doing here? All of a sudden, we're flip-flop. Like, you say, Yankee fans, you're making excuses for your bad roster. Met fans are making excuses for your bad defense. And also, your manager scratched a pitcher. So clearly, the 162-game grind is more important to you guys than winning the Subway Series too. Does that make sense? Or you guys just not care? You guys just don't want to get it through your head. Mets fans are getting weird, dude. They're like, they think there's a conspiracy. They think that other teams are laying down in front of the Braves. They think the Pirates are like waving the white flag so that the Braves can keep winning. Like, Met fans with a division lead and an owner who cares are getting weird. They're acting like they're both too cocky and acting like the curse has already happened and the fix is already in. It's very strange behavior. I don't think they know what thing to be annoyed at.
I think it's because they've quickly inherited the everybody, us against everybody mentality after just being, kind of the doormat for so long, and they don't know how to embrace. Having this us versus everybody mentality, or being at the top and having to constantly take shots from whoever is coming up to kind of catch them in the standings. Like the Austin Riley thing cracked me up. Reporter, hey, like you're going to face the Mets soon. What's that? Hey, we're coming for them. They're like, oh, this piece of shit thinks he's going to beat us. What the? Who does he think he is? Like, and then now they're documenting how many wins the Braves, or how the Braves were losing after Austin Riley's comment. It's like, It's not like they were like, "Hey, Austin, how you doing today?" He's like, "I'm getting ready to kick the Mets' ass in 3 days. That's really
I
exciting."
wake up every day thinking
Yeah.
about kicking the Mets' ass.
It's
Oh,
like,
weird, dude. Yeah.
so I think they don't know how to embrace this, because even the year they went to the World Series, they were a wild card team, right? They didn't win the division that year, did they?
I think they did,
Did
but
they? I don't know.
they beat the
Either way,
Dodgers in the DS.
when they win divisions, or when they're up at top of the division, they're always looking over their shoulder because of, the September collapses that they've had over, in recent modern history. So, hey, I like Mets fans, most of them. I think they, maybe embrace this new role where, you're at the top, and, you got to deal with taking shots from other people. But don't be so conspiracy just yet. Yankees fans have earned conspiracies potentially going against them, because there's been dominance for 20 years, and there's been Yankees hatred for over a century now. So your franchise just popped into existence in 1962. You weren't really relevant for much. You haven't been really relevant for much of that time. I get it. It's a tough life out there as a sports fan. But just learn how to ease into the role, and I think you'll be fine. Enjoy the ride. Don't get cocky.
I actually don't like Mets fans. I don't think most of them. I don't like the new thing that's happening. I used to, and I have plenty of friends who are Mets fans, but this year's been really weird. And they're like, you see, they're bringing the trumpet guy, Edwin Diaz's trumpet guy, to play his entrance live, not before Game 1 of the World Series, but before a regular season Dodgers game in a week. Like, that's definitely the moment.
It's an overreach.
Where if I were what?
It's an overreach, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if the Yankees did anything close to that cool, but like the Mets are now jumping a little bit. Like I said, they're not embracing. They're jumping a little bit too far. Now they're having trumpet guy play a regular season game against the Dodgers. Like, that's just going to set yourself up for some sort of criticism, sort of failure.
It's just the thing that, like, every Met fan knows, like, this isn't going to end well. Like, the smart ones know, like, I think people are going to be framing the trumpet guy game for a while. Like, closers don't stay perfect. They just don't. So, like, if you do that on opening day to celebrate him going like 48 for 49. You don't do that at the end of August against the team you're trying to face in the NLCS that's 41-9 in their last 50. Because I don't know if Diaz is going to blow a save in this series, but I know that if they face him in October, they're going to be like, this fucking guy hired the trumpet guy to play live during our regular season game. So let's start staring at some sliders in the dirt instead of swinging at them. How about that? Speaking of sliders, the Yankees called up a disgusting slider merchant today. Greg Weissert, who we've been clamoring for a call-up for quite a while, is joining the team in Oakland. Kind of a shocking one. I've been asking for this for so long. Greg's dad is a follower on Twitter, and every time we write about him, he'll retweet, he'll like the commentary, etc. Mr. Weissert, but it always felt like a long shot. He wasn't on the 40-man. It kind of felt like I was writing into a void, basically saying like, hey, for next year, you guys should consider this dude. But for this year, it's probably not going to happen. And we understand why, because you got to make a 40-man move. But the Yankees have kind of been making 40-man moves too. Like, they were so precious all offseason about the 40-man. And then all of a sudden, like, Luke Bard is here. And there was a guy on the 40-man for like a week whose name I already forgot. It was on the trade that, like, Carlos Espinal or something. The day they moved Severino to the 60-day, they like put a AAA reliever on the 40-man. Like, wait, what's going on here? And then he got DFA too. It's all weird, but it's been a little easier for them to find room. So I felt like I was talking for next year, but then, hey, if you want to do it, do it. We've been hearing for 2 days that it was a realistic possibility. Then we heard this morning that, like, it's going to happen, but there's a pitcher who's injured who will hit the IL as the corresponding move. Because this whole time I was kind of like, is Luke Bard going to get DFA'd? Or like maybe Albert Abreu, who's useless, goes to the 60-day IL. We never hear about him again. Then there's an injury, and so you're like, well, Chapman's been terrible. Maybe he's hurt, or maybe it's like Lou Trevino, who threw 38 pitches the other day to close out. I mean, the Yankees, again, the 3-game winning streak, you got Trevino going 2 1/3 innings. with 30 whatever pitches. That's how you secure one of the games. Then you go 4 outs, Jonathan Loaizaga. That's how you secure another one. And then Clark Schmidt for 60 pitches before you turn to Wandy Peralta. Getting out of that jam, gets Lindor, just like he got Freddie Freeman last year. It's all fun and games, but none of those saves were conventional at all. Efros gets hurt in the interim. And you're kind of like, we don't have a bullpen. So when you hear they're calling up Weissert, you're like, either get rid of move Abreu further. I think you could move Harrison Bader to the 60-day, theoretically, because he's already been on the IL for 60 days, so it doesn't even change his timeline. There are things you can do, but I was really hoping that it was like injured Chapman or worst case scenario, injured Trevino, because he threw all those pitches. And it's like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're losing a guy that suddenly we trust. Now we don't trust him because he's gone. We're losing all these guys we trust. And then it's all Schmidt and Mirrors out of the bullpen. But nope, Weissert up for Nestor Cortez. Severino already on the IL for another couple of weeks. He feels good. Can't come off till September 11th. We know that. People are pointing to a Nestor interview after his last start, which was, again, awesome, where he said he feels fine. He knows everybody's concerned with his innings, but trust him. He feels fine. People are pointing to that, saying that this is a phantom stint. I sure hope it is. If it is, find time to try it. If not, the Jordan Montgomery trade, which already looked like the worst trade, looks like the worst trade. Because at the time, the Yankees had already lost Severino from this quote-unquote ideal playoff rotation. And now they lose a second guy, whether it's by choice or not. So they're down to Tyone, not in the playoff rotation. Herman, not in the playoff rotation. Schmidt will slide in there, not in the playoff rotation. Cole and Montas, theoretically, in the playoff rotation. We got 2 of those guys active right now. Even if Jordan Montgomery didn't have an 0.5 ERA with the Cardinals, this would be a situation where you'd be like, wish we had that guy. Now it looks, literally F to an F- to maybe like a J+.
Yeah, it's the depth. And it wasn't even about, like we said, we knew Jordan Montgomery either wasn't starting in the postseason or we didn't really want it to happen because his starts kind of never materialize or give what the Yankees, they never gave the Yankees what they needed, but it kept the Yankees in the game, but it was never enough and it never made you feel good. That said, trading Jordan Montgomery and not having a contingency plan and essentially just replacing him with Frankie Montas had you sitting there and being like, okay, great. So the organization thinks A, everybody is going to stay healthy until the end of the season, which is absolutely crazy. Or B, the organization thinks they won't have to manage people's innings, which is also crazy because the most obvious candidate, the team's best pitcher, Nestor Cortez, is 38 innings above his career high in innings pitched this year after just 23 starts. And you obviously have Severino, who before we knew he was, before we knew he was going to the 60-day IL, you knew even if he was coming back in, if he came back last week, if that was a promising timeline for him, still would have taken him time to get back up to speed. Still wouldn't have been fully unleashed just yet. And or the Yankees would have been cautious with his usage from the onset. So you wouldn't have had a starter capable of going in 6 innings right off the bat, coming back from injury. And you wouldn't have had a starter capable of giving you that length for the remainder of the season because of how little he's pitched since the end of 2018. So that's why the trade sucks. Monty doing well in St. Louis is a twofold problem. One, it just looks like a bad trade because Harrison Bader's not ready and is not playing, and you just traded an asset for something that can't contribute. And 2, what does it say about Jordan Montgomery leaving the Yankees and already performing better than he ever has? Never had a stretch like this with the Yankees, did he? Don't think so. Don't think he has. So I don't know what that says. You have Joey Gallo having the best OPS of any player acquired at the deadline. I don't know what this says about New York. I don't know what it says about the fans. I don't know what it says about Brian Cashman. I don't know what it says about the team. I don't know what it says about Aaron Boone, but something has to be to blame. You have Andrew Heaney last year, who was never really good, but then came here and it completely unraveled. I mentioned Sonny Gray and Lance Lynn before. The Yankees couldn't get enough out of them or didn't utilize them properly. Don't know what it is. And then they go elsewhere and they're absolutely dominant. So I need an explanation about one thing. Either way, look, if there's any time for Nestor to go in the IL, whether it's a real injury or a phantom stint, it's right now. You have these 7 games. I think you could do without Nestor for the Rays series, honestly. The Yankees, outside of playing their worst baseball of the season, have been fine against the Rays. And they still have okay enough pitching to get through a 3-game series against them. So if the Yankees want to give them a rest, and this was the strategy, I think it was a shrewd one because the schedule is not very intense right now. They just got through their hardest, probably 2-week stretch of the year while playing their worst baseball. So not entirely damning right here. I think we can get through it. I think we'll be okay. And Domingo Germán is kind of like I said before, he stepped up a little bit. If Frankie Montas is turning this corner where he's kind of rediscovered himself and has figured out a new way to pitch in this new setting, then you're looking at a completely different situation. But the goal, hopefully, is having Nestor up to speed at full strength, ready to go in the postseason. Because I asked Max the other day, man, it's not going to happen, but should Nestor Cortez be a Game 1 playoff starter? Should he? Yeah. I'm literally just asking. Does anybody trust Garrett Cole at this point to get you a W in the first game of a playoff series? I know he's done it before for us in 2020. He fell flat on his face against the Red Sox, so he's 1 for 2. And the inconsistencies we've seen over the last 2 years, very concerning. So I think resting Nestor Cortez is of the utmost importance, whether he's starting a Game 1 or not. He's going to need to pick up the pieces in Game 2, or he's going to need to get them off to the right start if Aaron Boone were to make that momentous of a decision, which, again, is not happening, but worth asking and worth talking about. Nestor Cortez, most important pitcher. Rest him. Make sure he's okay. End of the story. Yankees still get 5 or 6 wins on this road trip. That's it.
Hopefully. Yeah, and again, if Cortez is really hurt, that's terrible.
Bad. Yeah, that's bad.
Really, really hurts the team. If he does feel fine, if he was telling the truth the other day when he said he feels fine, then yeah, we'll see him in 10 days and we'll just say, okay, great. Thanks for resting. It makes the Rays series all the more difficult. They play the Rays 6 more times. They play the Red Sox 6 more times. They need the Red Sox to step up this weekend against the Rays. Be alive.
Yeah.
Defend your home turf. Just be a team. Be a Major League Baseball team this weekend against the Rays. Because Wander Franco's coming back. Manuel Margot's already back. The Rays are getting better. The Rays pitching staff makes no sense. There's nobody in there who intimidates me. And yet they still, all they do is win baseball games. Wow. Comment section absolutely blowing up about losing Nestor Cortez. We're not sugarcoating this. If they lose Nestor Cortez for real, if he actually is gone for a while, that's bad. There's no sugarcoating that.
Yeah.
They can lose him for 10 days. They can. And if they can't, then they're the most poorly built team in the world. And unfortunately, they do face JP Sears in Game 2 of this Oakland series, which is going to feel awesome. So just preparing everybody for that. Weissert is a sick move. I can't wait to see him.
Yeah.
You're going to maybe not watch JP Sears in the second game here. Yanks need to take some from Oakland and Anaheim are 2 places they've historically struggled. And they just can't historically struggle. They can't play these series like they're playing the teams from history. Because this Angels team and this A's team are not the teams that they have struggled against on the road in the past. They just got to forget about the Coliseum. Don't blow your division lead in Oakland. I know things have been getting blown in Oakland a lot recently, but don't blow your division lead in Oakland. Don't.
Cops are investigating that. How is that even an
They're investigating the Yankees blowing a game in Oakland. Yeah, that's what I said. The Yankees could use some more pitching. They might have had Pablo Lopez at the deadline if things had broken their way.
Yeah.
I got bad news, though. This was never going to happen. The good news, Pablo Lopez has been quite terrible since the deadline. He has a 5 ERA in 4 starts in August. Dreadful. If you had that, you'd be upset.
Oh, my God.
I certainly would be. I don't want that. But Pablo Lopez was a Yankees target, was maybe the guy we said the deal was done before they pulled back on the whole Montgomery thing and they couldn't renege. And then oopsie daisy, we still traded Jordan Montgomery. We don't have Pablo Lopez. Ken Rosenthal leaked some details today. Apparently, that conversation was Pablo and infielder Miguel Rojas. Good player, good utility guy. Probably be getting some starts right now, but kind of like a DJ LeMahieu type. I don't know. Doesn't inspire me so much.
No.
Probably Oswaldo Cabrera would not be up if he were here. So you'd have Lopez struggling and Rojas instead of Cabrera in exchange for Gleyber Torres, who's been very frustrating lately, and Oswald Peraza. Both of them for Lopez, who's been abysmal and who's cratered in the weeks that have just passed. Of all the things you can get on the Yankees case for not doing at the deadline, this is not one of them. What is that all about?
That is, I mean, hey, look, once we caught wind of what the Marlins were asking for Pablo Lopez with the Dodgers, Marlins reporter supposedly said it was Gavin Lux and 3 prospects. Fucking crazy, dude. Pablo Lopez, absolutely fine starter. But the Marlins have clearly taken team control to the next level in these discussions. This is the first season ever in which Pablo Lopez has eclipsed 21 starts. And he's previously had shoulder troubles. He's 26 years old, which is obviously a solid age to get somebody, but he doesn't have overpowering stuff. He walks people. He's not really a power pitcher. He doesn't. It's like he's a good pitcher. I'm not taking anything away from him, but like to demand,
I think, yeah.
To demand what you're demanding, like you got to be a little bit more realistic here. He's a number 3. And to ask for that much is a lot. That's the Yankees' top shortstop prospect or second, number 2 shortstop.
Whatever he is at this point, he's a shortstop for now.
Yeah. Who's higher than Anthony Volpe. And then you're looking at Gleyber Torres, who I would have been elated if the Yankees dealt him at the deadline. But at the time, he was playing well. He had increased his value. In no way do you part with I'll side with Brian Cashman here, and then I will tear him down in a second. So you rightfully back out of this deal. You understand the value that you possess in Oswald Peraza, who they didn't have to give up for Frankie Montas, who is probably a better pitcher than Pablo Lopez. I think we could probably agree on that in terms of body of work and like the makeup of a pitcher you want in game 2 or 3 of a postseason series. It's definitely more of a Frankie Montas than it is a Pablo Lopez. So good on Brian Cashman for that. He read the market correctly. Boom, boom, boom. However, you have 20 plus years in the business. Whatever this plan was, whether Montgomery was actually planned to be dealt or not, if he was planned to be dealt and you had no contingency plan, and this was it, and you didn't approach that contingency plan until the buzzer at the deadline, then you're bad at your job. That's number 1. If Montgomery was decided to be dealt at the last second, and then you decided, hey, let me go over to the rookie GM in Miami and see if they can swing a deal with me at the last second. So you're the general manager of the New York Yankees, and you're going to approach the Marlins, who have been recently run by Kim Ng, who is probably kind of a little bit in flux after Jeter's departure, after, not being able to bring in the requisite talent to supplement all these other younger guys. And what do you think she's going to do as a young, especially a female in the position, because she's the first female general manager in the history of Major League Baseball? Do you think that you're going to just get out of here with the deal that you want? Do you think you think a veteran GM of 20 plus years working for the most prestigious baseball franchise in the entire world is going to waltz into Miami and try to pluck off an asset with team control for a team that values team control because they don't have the money to pay for players? And you think you're going to actually be able to get out of there without surrendering whatever serious assets they might be asking for? Yes, this was this would have been a massive overpay, but what do you expect going into a market with a team like this with not many starting pitchers available? You backed yourself into a corner, and then you created a need when there didn't have to be one. and you actually dealt a starting pitcher in a market where the starting pitching was thin, and you didn't get anything good enough in return. Harrison Bader still, jury's still out. We'll figure it out
kicking
when
ass.
the time comes.
No. Harrison Bader has completely changed the complexion of this team. They don't win the Subway Series without his butt slaps. He was the first one out of the dugout smacking ass that series. He totally turned the tide. Yeah, no, we know nothing about Harrison Bader, and we're talking about him going to the 60-day IL before we're talking about him playing a game. So that's great.
Yeah. So I think that's where you have to kind of pin it on Cashman. It's like, great, if this was a last second, if you didn't have a notebook out thinking, okay, who are the starting pitchers available? Who are the GMs I could talk to that I know I have a good rapport with, or I know I have a good relationship with, and I can get a deal together relatively fast and have it materialize as quickly as possible if I were to make a move of this magnitude. Because then that's coupled with Clark Schmidt going down, and then you're building him back up as a starter. And Ron Marinaccio going down at the time, who was the hottest reliever and still is the hottest reliever. So I don't the approach here is crazy. We can blame the Marlins all we want for pulling the rug out from underneath the deal. If that were the case, Brian Cashman should have known what he was getting into in these types of talks at the time and dealing with the magnitude of what they were. Clearly, I don't think there was a gauge on that. There was no finger on the pulse of that. And then that resulted in what it was. If the plan was great, trade Montgomery, swap him out for Montas, put Herman in the rotation for the time being, and build up Clark Schmidt, do I think that that's the worst idea in the world? No, but it's not particularly great. And then you're leaving yourself susceptible for injuries. And then you're just creating a cycle that you don't need to. Now, instead of having Schmidt in the bullpen where he was valuable as a multi-inning guy, whether you think that that was his role or not, that's a discussion for another time. However, you're taking from the bullpen, adding to the rotation, and then having to add back to the bullpen. And you're just creating a bunch of unnecessary moves that don't have to happen. Puts things in flux, changes people's roles, puts you in a stretch like you just were in. I think it was they were 4-14 to start August or some shit, 4-15.
Yeah.
Well, you did that to yourself. So, okay, great. Maybe the Yankees didn't take August seriously, but guess what? There's still moving parts in place that need to be put together for September. So you set yourself back probably 6 weeks. I don't think that's good managing of a team, of a roster, when that's your job. But hey, could be wrong. Could all actually come together when the postseason gets here, and you could smack me across my face. But I don't think that the Yankees are smart enough to put themselves in this kind of situation and make themselves susceptible to bad play, to criticism, to, poor headlines, the media grilling them and all that. So the team is not built. Watching the captain, this team is not built for that. You watch the captain, you see that the collection of personalities and players they had. Jeter was the leader at 24 years old. Completely different story. That team can handle the media. That team can handle the bullshit. This team can't.
Watching all the tweets come in saying that the Yankees pitchers were all excited and watching Jordan Montgomery finish his 99 pitch shutout on Monday. Like, that's all you need to know. They're still in the locker room thinking about Jordan Montgomery, and obviously they're happy for their friend. But you don't hear, how many tweets have you seen that's like the whole Yankee locker room was watching Joey Gallo's at bat with runners in scoring position in LA? Zero. Yeah. How many tweets are like, oh, the Yankees were wrapped with attention at Andrew Heaney's shutout Wednesday night? None. Zero. Jordan Montgomery still had friends in the locker room. You don't keep people on your roster because they have friends, but you don't tear someone away from the roster that leaves the rest of the roster feeling wronged. That's not what you do. Your consideration isn't like, and I wrote about this, how the Yankees lacked humanity because his fiance or wife was about to start a medical program in the city and then upended her plans entirely. That story was not, the thesis wasn't the Yankees should, concern themselves with everybody's spouse's medical school history before making trades. It's just about, you don't inform him a week, 4 days before that, hey, we're not gonna trade you, but we're having conversations. Your spot here maybe isn't as secure as you're thinking, so plan for the worst. They didn't tell him to plan for the worst. They told him nothing. And they didn't tell the teammates to plan for the worst. They just said, hey, Jordan Montgomery's not on this team anymore, by the way. So it's a lack of the human touch. They don't need to be making their roster decisions based on somebody's personal proclivities. And you don't need to re-sign people because they say they want to hang out with their friends. But if somebody's about to get their life upended, you don't want to be the team that has the reputation for, ripping that out from under them or gutting them right at the horn, at the buzzer, or trading Montgomery at 5:54 Eastern time or whatever. That's just the reputation that you don't want. Michael says Aaron Boone's going to be on the Michael K Show at 3 to let us know how long Nestor's going to be out. Here's an impression of what that's going to sound like. Yeah, Nestor, he pulled up. He felt a little something. We're evaluating every day. So, you just don't know. Hey, this is a world where stuff happens. And we just, he felt a little something then. It's right in front of us.
It's right in front of us.
And we need it. It's right in front of us. No, he's not going to tell us anything. That is going to give you no information. I appreciate that you think Aaron Boone's probably going to tell us about Nestor Cortez, but I think the charade's going to be kept up for a couple more days here, unfortunately. I'll tune in. I'll listen to Aaron Boone, though, and see what he has to say.
Yeah.
That is it for this edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Make sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. All the same places you get the Michael K Show, you can find us. We stream live on YouTube, 2 o'clock Eastern time, Mondays and Thursdays. That's 2 o'clock Eastern time, Mondays and Thursdays. We'll also go live if there's necessity for going live. Something crazy happens. Watch along with us. We'll live tweet these games all out on the West Coast. These are 9:30, 9:07, 4:07. Otherwise known as normal times for baseball. Yeah, super normal. Can't wait for that. JP Sears is tomorrow night. If you want to go out and party on Friday instead of watching the Yankees, it's a Friday night, so it probably won't be on at the bar because it's Amazon Prime. Another very cool thing the Yankees are doing. You just cannot watch them play on Friday night. Not going to happen. Never going to happen. Until then, though, please feel free to listen to our back episodes, back catalog, and listen to this one again. Maybe you hear something you missed. Maybe you weren't here when we were doing the Oakland Upper Deck blow joke segment, and you hear me saying that now, and you're like, man, I would really love to go back and scrub through and get that. I would too, my man. I would too. Until next time, I'm Adam Weiner. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weiner. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. You can find us and our bylines at yanksgoyard.com. You can talk to us on the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. A lot of discourse there, a lot of content up on yanksgoyard.com. Let's have a good time, folks. Let's take care of business on a West Coast road trip that's kind of teed up for us. It's kind of right there. Come on, boys. We can do it. Positive reinforcement this weekend and into next week. I'm feeling it. Everyone, enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Yes, we will. We'll see you then.